The galaxy has always whispered rules, ancient warnings carried through conquered worlds and dead transmissions. Among them, one stands apart from all others: never harm a Green Beret. It isn't written in treaties or recorded in the Galactic Charter, but in the silence left behind when empires ignored it. Every species that ever learned the meaning of that rule did so only once. The survivors passed the story on like a curse, trembling as they spoke of the humans who fight like specters, calm, relentless, and absolute. The Thalcor Empire laughed at such tales. To them, humanity was a primitive species, bound by sentiment and boundless arrogance. Their emperor called humans emotional mammals with delusions of grandeur. Their admirals dismissed the legends as propaganda spread by weaker civilizations desperate for protection. Yet deep down, even the bravest among them avoided human sectors, the way prey avoids the scent of predators it cannot see. That changed when an operation near the Kepler expanse went wrong. A Thalcor strike fleet intercepted a human reconnaissance shuttle returning from a diplomatic survey. The humans surrendered peacefully. Most were released under council law, except one. His name was Master Sergeant Cole Rains of Earth's Special Forces. His armor bore no insignia, just a faded green patch on his shoulder, and a look that made the alien soldiers uneasy. The Empire decided to make an example out of him. Across the galaxy, the broadcast went live. Holofeeds projected Rains standing in chains, surrounded by the cold glow of Thalcor guards. They called it justice for defiance. He said nothing. When the interrogator demanded military codes, he only stared, jaw set, blood drying on his cheek. The alien host smirked and struck him again for the audience, calling humans the Council's tame animals. The feed cut just before the next blow. The galaxy's reaction was muted at first. The Council condemned it as a breach of interspecies conduct. Civilized words for something that should never have happened. The Empire dismissed their complaints. The Emperor's message was broadcast next. No primitive soldier will dictate terms to the masters of the spiral arm. He believed his cruelty would earn respect. Instead, it signed his death warrant. On Earth, far beneath the Rockies, lights flickered inside a hidden bunker that no civilian had ever seen. Alarms pulsed silently, not in panic but in synchronization. Lines of encrypted data moved across screens. Commanders leaned over consoles as cold voices confirmed the unthinkable. Visual confirmation of Sergeant Rains. Status captured. Broadcast verified. No emotion followed, only procedure. A single phrase echoed through the network, one that needed no further explanation. Rule 1 has been broken. Across Earth's military channels, certain frequencies went dark. Old protocols reawakened, ones older than the Council's authority, sealed since the War of the Line. Satellites repositioned themselves without announcement. A coded order reached deep space listening posts, then special operations bases orbiting quiet moons. There was no fanfare, no speeches, no media leaks. Humanity's silence spread faster than any declaration of war could. Among alien colonies, the sudden absence of human presence went unnoticed for hours. Then trade routes began to close. Earth's diplomats withdrew from negotiations mid-session. Merchant fleets changed vectors and disappeared into FTL's shadows. When questioned, the Terran envoy at the Council said only, "We are observing operational silence." No one understood what it meant, but every experienced commander felt the same chill. Even the Thalcor noticed the shift. Their intelligence division reported that every human data exchange hub across the quadrant had gone offline. Their analysts laughed nervously, calling it coincidence. The Emperor didn't care. He ordered another broadcast. The interrogation of the Green Beret would continue until the human species learned obedience. That was the last transmission anyone received from Thalcor space for 3 days. In the dark corridors of Earth's command, an aide whispered, "What happens now?" The general replied quietly, "Now we remind the galaxy why that rule existed." No announcement followed. No declaration of war was issued. Humanity did what it had always done best, acted in silence. Ships vanished from dry docks, leaving behind empty berths and encrypted trails. Commanders spoke in low tones, faces unmoved. They weren't angry, anger clouds precision. This wasn't revenge. It was enforcement. Somewhere far beyond the rim, deep inside an alien prison, Cole Raines lifted his head as the ground trembled. He didn't know yet what was coming, but the faint, steady rumble told him something had changed. The galaxy didn't know it yet either, but every being who'd ever heard the old legend was about to remember why it was called the rule. The galaxy waited for a response that never came. For 72 hours, humanity was silent. No press statements, no council meetings, no retaliation, only the absence of sound, like the universe holding its breath. To outsiders, it looked like fear. To those who understood Earth's ways, it was far worse. Silence meant preparation. In an underground complex buried beneath layers of steel and rock, the command center remained lit by cold, white light. The atmosphere was clinical, stripped of emotion. Every movement was deliberate. No shouting, no panic, only the rhythm of coordination. Admiral Chen leaned over the main console while encrypted transmissions flowed in from distant systems. The analysts monitored them with expressionless precision. One by one, the final orders were confirmed. Operation Retribution was live. On paper, the mission didn't exist. Its codename was erased from every database within seconds of activation. Even the Council's intelligence division, known for its infiltration prowess, found nothing. The protocols belonged to a time before diplomacy, before the treaties that kept humanity restrained. They were built on contingency planning for extinction-level threats. The capture of a Green Beret triggered those contingencies. General Morales spoke quietly, his tone steady. Status of the retrieval teams? Ready. Fleet logistics synchronized. Civilian networks purged. Good, he replied. We move when the stars align. Every phrase was chosen with surgical precision, stripped of rhetoric. Humanity didn't need to roar when it could whisper and still be heard across galaxies. Elsewhere, diplomats moved in calculated unison. Earth's ambassadors at the Council withdrew without explanation. Their seats remained empty, small flags folded on polished desks. The message was clear in its simplicity: negotiations had ended. Across the galactic net, trade agreements with the Empire were suspended. Merchant guilds that relied on Terran escort ships began to panic. The flow of resources shifted overnight, creating a vacuum of power the Empire didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, in orbit above Mars, the Terran strategic fleet powered down its transponders. From the outside, it looked abandoned: no movement, no signals, no visible heat signatures. Inside, engineers rerouted entire reactor grids, reconfiguring ships for silent travel. Stealth plating absorbed their presence, as if the fleet had vanished. Thousands of crew members moved without words, their discipline absolute. They weren't preparing for war, they were preparing to erase a mistake. Back on Earth, the civilian population remained unaware. News agencies received filtered statements about communications malfunctions. No panic spread because there was nothing to see. Humanity's greatest strength was its ability to coordinate chaos into precision without anyone noticing until it was too late. In the halls of the Thalcor Empire, the absence of human communication was mocked. Their admirals laughed during council meetings, calling the silence proof of fear. The Emperor viewed it as victory, proclaiming that humans finally understood who ruled the stars. His advisors hesitated, uneasy at how quickly the humans had disappeared from every diplomatic and commercial channel. But their hesitation was dismissed as cowardice. They celebrated while their enemy moved in the shadows. Deep inside the Terran intelligence network, analysts monitored every word transmitted by the Empire. Facial recognition tracked each officer involved in the capture of Sergeant Raines. Patterns of communication, fleet positions, supply routes, all mapped, all logged, all assigned to termination lists. There was no emotional language in the reports. Just data, probability, execution timelines. Hours stretched into days. The galaxy remained unaware that humanity had already begun. Cargo ships leaving Sol were not carrying trade goods. They were deploying surveillance drones along hyperspace corridors. Civilian transports became recon platforms. Mining freighters shifted orbit to align with strike vectors. Every movement was part of a pattern so vast that even human command could only see fragments of it at once. By the third day, the Thalcor Empire's border systems began reporting anomalies. Communications relays flickered and failed. Patrols went missing. The Empire assumed it was sabotaged by local rebels. No one realized that human fleets had already breached the outer perimeter. Inside the Earth Defense Command Chamber, the final signal arrived. Rains confirmed alive. A pause followed. Then Admiral Chen gave the simplest order in military history. Commence. Every officer in the room understood the magnitude behind that single word. No one cheered, no one saluted. They simply executed. Satellites shifted orbit, Black Ops units activated beacon codes, and the Terran fleet transitioned into FTL silence. Humanity didn't announce its wrath, it simply moved. On that 73rd hour, the galaxy felt the temperature drop. Star charts darkened across Thalcor space as communications blacked out one after another. Every Empire watching finally understood that the silence had never been submission. It was the warning before the storm. The 73rd hour arrived without ceremony. The galaxy didn't see fleets form or armies gather, it simply felt the quiet collapse of order. Thalcor patrols vanished from sensors, communications went dark, and trade convoys emerged from hyperspace into empty voids where beacons once pulsed. The Empire's admirals argued over technical failures, unaware that every system affected had already been mapped, infiltrated, and marked for destruction. Humanity had moved. Over Thalcor space, the first wave appeared without light or signal. Stealth carriers unfolded from FTL shadows, their hulls coated in electromagnetic silence. From them descended drones, millions of intelligent, adaptive swarms designed to cripple infrastructure without mercy. Orbital relays died first, cutting the Empire's coordination to pieces. Energy grids followed, then planetary defense networks. Every system failed in precise sequence, as though the entire Empire had been turned off by a single switch. Across the alien capital, panic spread. Civilians flooded communication hubs demanding answers, but no response came. The command hierarchy fragmented, shouting conflicting orders. The Emperor's personal guard launched into orbit to investigate, only to find a sky filled with black shapes, Terran ships, cold and silent, weapons already aligned. No ultimatums, no negotiations, only locked targeting solutions waiting for a command that had already been given. The strikes began not with noise but with the absence of it. Rail slugs, invisible at velocity, ripped through orbital stations. Shockwaves bloomed across the horizon in perfect synchrony. Within moments, every Thalcor shipyard was a drifting graveyard of molten alloy and fractured debris. Their admirals screamed for counterfire, but targeting systems were blind. Terran jamming protocols turned their entire communication network into static. On the ground, alien soldiers fought shadows. Human special operations teams, Ghost Recon and Green Berets, moved through cities with surgical precision. Their armor adapted to environment and movement, each strike designed to cripple rather than destroy indiscriminately. Every officer who'd taken part in Rains's capture was located and neutralized. Commanders found their power cores sabotaged, their strongholds breached before alarms finished sounding. It wasn't war, it was correction. In his cell, Cole Rains stirred as tremors rolled through the floor. The ceiling dust fell in rhythmic pulses, distant detonations moving closer. A guard ran past, terrified. Then came the faint hum of atmosphere displacement, a sound only Terran exfil teams made. The door opened with mechanical calm. 2 soldiers entered, visors blank. One nodded. "We're taking you home, Sergeant." Outside, the Empire burned with mathematical precision. The fleet in orbit executed the second phase, suppression fire. Massive tungsten rods dropped from orbit at fractional light velocity, striking with enough force to end continents but calibrated to avoid civilian zones. Humanity's response was brutal yet disciplined, destruction focused solely on military infrastructure. Entire armadas dissolved before they could launch. Council observers, watching secretly through remote satellites, stared in disbelief. The scale, coordination, and silence of Earth's retaliation surpassed anything ever recorded. No signals transmitted, no communication intercepted, only blackouts where human fleets operated. Within 6 hours, the Thalcor Navy ceased to exist. A single encrypted broadcast went out from the Terran flagship, repeating across every surviving Thalcor frequency. Rule number 1 has been enforced. Return what was taken. Consider this mercy. The message carried no tone, no threat, just fact. Empires across the galaxy received it, analyzing the signal for weakness. None was found. It contained no traceable origin, only a residual human encryption key older than most civilizations in the Council archives. The Empire's remnants tried to surrender, but no one was left to receive it. When the operation ended, the Terran fleet disappeared as swiftly as it had come. Satellites reignited, systems rebooted, and the galaxy once again saw the stars, but Thalcor space was dark. The once proud Empire, which had ruled 3 spiral arms, now consisted of ruins orbiting dead worlds. Cole Rains awoke aboard a med frigate days later, the hum of engines steady beneath him. A medic checked his vitals but said nothing. Across the stars, transmissions began to circulate, footage of the Empire's fall, captured by their own cameras before blackout. Every species watched, and every leader understood the unspoken lesson. Humanity never declared victory. It didn't need to. Its message was woven through the silence left behind. Some rules are not warnings, they're boundaries between survival and extinction. The galaxy had crossed one, and the price had been collected with interest. The war ended not with surrender, but with silence. The Thalcor Empire ceased to exist as a governing power, its capital drifted in orbiting fragments, and its name became a caution whispered among traders and soldiers. Where once there had been pride and arrogance, now there was absence. Entire sectors remained without light, as if the stars themselves refused to witness what had been done. The galaxy began to understand that Earth's vengeance wasn't fury, it was enforcement of order, precise and cold. Cole Rains sat in the medical bay of the Terran frigate Vigilant Dawn. His wounds had been repaired, but his silence remained heavier than metal. The crew moved with quiet respect, speaking only in measured tones. No one congratulated him, no one asked what happened. They didn't need to. Every human knew the weight of the rule that had been broken and what it cost to re-establish it. When his commanding officer entered, he didn't salute, he simply said, "You're back. That's enough." In the aftermath, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Delegates from 100 worlds gathered beneath the cold glow of the central chamber, the space filled with unease. The seat reserved for Earth had been empty since the withdrawal. Now it wasn't. The Terran representative entered, dressed in a plain gray uniform, unarmed, face expressionless. The hall fell silent as he walked to the podium. He didn't raise his voice or look around for approval. "Earth does not seek dominance," he said. "We do not crave expansion. We are not predators by choice. But when one of ours is taken, when one of ours is broken, we will answer. Not because we wish to destroy, but because we remember what survival costs. The rule was made for your safety, not ours. You ignored it. You saw the consequence. We hope you learned." No one interrupted. Even the Council's most powerful empires remained motionless. The Terran delegate finished, gave a nod, and walked out. The chair was left empty once more, but this time, no one dared fill the silence with debate. The message required no further explanation. News of the event spread through every channel, but human networks didn't acknowledge them. Earth didn't boast, didn't issue statements. The only communication released by the Terran government was a single phrase transmitted across neutral frequencies. Rule number 1 reinstated. It was all the galaxy needed to hear. Months later, trade resumed cautiously. Merchant ships reappeared under human escort, and diplomatic envoys reopened limited communication. The ruins of the Thalcor capital remained untouched, declared a restricted zone by unanimous council vote. It stood as both memorial and warning. Those who ventured close reported faint transmissions repeating endlessly in Terran binary. No words, only numbers marking the time since the rule was broken. Within human territory, life continued as though nothing had happened. Cities thrived, children played beneath skies cleared of satellites used for war, and the fleet returned to silent patrol. Humanity's strength was not in its weapons, but in its restraint, the knowledge that it could annihilate, and yet chose not to, unless provoked beyond reason. Among human officers, the phrase, Green Beret Protocol, became shorthand for absolute authority. No interference, no hesitation, no mercy if one of their own was taken again. Cole Raines returned to duty months later, though his record was classified beyond top secret. His name disappeared from public databases, his service files sealed under encryption keys accessible to only a handful of commanders. When asked what he planned next, he replied, "To live quietly." The message was sent. Those who met him afterwards said his eyes carried the calm of a man who'd seen the edge of extinction and stepped back unbroken. Across alien worlds, the legend grew. Parents told their children never to speak ill of humans, never to provoke them, never to harm one wearing green. In military academies, cadets studied the fall of the Thalcor Empire as part of doctrine labeled the human example. Scholars argued whether the event was justice or terror. Philosophers concluded it was both, a warning carved into history by a species that understood survival better than anyone. In the centuries that followed, no empire, no dominion, no warlord dared violate the rule again. It became law not because it was enforced, but because memory itself enforced it. Somewhere in deep space, Terran patrols still moved in silence, ensuring the galaxy never forgot. And on Earth, beneath the stars that bore witness to vengeance and restraint alike, the words engraved in black stone at a mountain memorial read simply, Galactic Rule Number 1, never harm a Green Beret. Some rules aren't made by councils. They're made by consequences.